Well, good day to you. It is April the 13th. I hope wherever you are, you're having a wonderful day. My name is Gary Willing, and I want to welcome everyone to Search for Signs and remind you, like I did in the last video, and the video before that, and the video before that, and probably the video before that, that if you want to know more about who and what Maitreya is, want to see if there's any truth to what I'm talking about when it comes to who and what Maitreya is, what he means for humanity, even about the priorities of Maitreya, the best thing to do is to educate yourself better by reading more about it. If you check out the description portion of these videos, there are links that take you to websites that I think have some really good background information about what we talk about here. So they're there for you whenever you want to look into it. If you want to join the discussion, of course, you can post comments. You probably learn more by asking questions, but you can ask questions in the comment section. You can even email me at searchforsigns@mail.com and or to join the discussion on Facebook. But I had one person, the sole questionnaire. So since the last time I put a video up a few hours ago. RawZ33, thank you very much for your question. It's going to give me something to talk about in this video. So what did you have to ask? I'm trying to figure out which book to buy. Which one would you say speaks the most about the New World Order? So I am going to tell you what books I think you should read. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about the New World Order, just for those people who perhaps didn't hear the last few videos where I went into greater depth about it. Okay, so I really only recommend Benjamin Creme's books. Okay, now you can branch out and read other books. You can read Alice Bailey's books if you want, or even Helena Blavatsky, The Secret Doctrine maybe, but those are a little heavy. You know, Benjamin Creme's books, he had a way of explaining exactly what Alice Bailey was talking about, but simpler, so somebody like myself can pick up on it and use it. You know, I kind of look at like going to the gym, right? If you've never gone to the gym, then why would you put 400 pounds on the barbell and try to like bench press it? You're not going to get anything done, right? Even if you could get one rep in, you know, that's about it for you, right? You're not going to get any real exercise in. It's better to go lighter and work your way up to 400 pounds, right? So I would describe Alice Bailey's books as about 350 to 400 pound bench presses. Ben's probably a little under 100 to get yourself up to that level. But you can do more reps and you can learn more about it, and you can gain more from it, I think, just starting out by reading his books. And if you were to pick any one of his books, I would start with one or other of the Maitreya Mission books. There's 1, 2, and 3. But I would recommend Volume 2 to start out with, and then maybe go to Volume 3, and then branch out to some of his other books if you want. The Maitreya Mission books were a compilation of a lot of question and answers that people submitted to Share International that he answered on a monthly basis. There were other things in there like keynote talks at some conferences, some things at lectures and so forth. And there's a lot in there that you can really get a lot of really good information about what the real New World Order is going to be, about justice, where everybody has food, clothing, shelter, healthcare, and education as a right. And we're going to, like I said, I want to talk a little bit more about it. Now, if you wanted to also read a series of books that Benjamin Creme published, I would say Master Speaks Volume 1 and or 2. So when I read Benjamin Creme's Master's articles, I'm reading it from one or other of those books, Maitreya's Mission Volume 1 or Volume 2. Not Maitreya's Mission Volume 1 or Volume 2. I'm sorry. Master Speaks Volume 1 or Volume 2. Excuse me, I misspoke. But you can read these articles for yourself, of course, and you will internalize better what he's saying and probably retain it better than me just reading it to you. But I don't think you can find anywhere information about how these masters think, what their priorities are for the world, what Maitreya means for humanity really, even how these masters will be teaching humanity in a way, better than you can by reading one of his books. But you can read some of the articles for free on the Share International site. So you don't even have to buy that book. You can actually just go and read it for yourself. But that's what I would recommend. Now, in terms of what the New World Order is, I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about it, because there was a woman who emailed me a few days ago that wanted me to elaborate on it, where this all came from, for those who didn't know. I was reading one of Benjamin Creme's Master's articles that I think he wrote in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. He used the words, a New World Order. And she wanted me to elaborate on it because there might be some confusion on it. And now Rosie 33 wants to know more about it through a book. So that's where it's kind of coming from. But let's talk about a New World Order real quick, because, the history of it from my perspective started in the early 90s. When I first moved to Atlanta, I started hearing this from people who were trying to get a better sense of what's really going on in the world. They didn't trust the government, right? They had been lied to before so many times that they're like, screw it, I just don't trust anything that's coming out of their mouth. Anyway, so where I first heard that phrase, a New World Order, was coming from George Herbert Walker Bush's speech, where he was talking about 1,000 points of light, I think, and he even mentioned a New World Order in that speech, and that sent conspiracy theorists into a tizzy about what he meant. And at the time that I first heard it, they were using the name Illuminati as the economic powerhouse family cartels behind all the world's problems and so forth. And that's what they were using. And they were saying that the United Nations was going to take over not only the world, but the United States as a whole, and institute this communist fascist state all around the world. They were going to take it over finally. They had been working behind the scenes, anything from the Korean War to the Vietnam War especially, to what was going on in the 80s, to the debt crisis in the United States, was all planned in order for this takeover. It was what I remember from them saying. And that the UN was going to play an integral role and take over the United States, and anybody that was against this plan would be put into an internment camp, just like in, circa 1940s in Europe, right? And God knows what would happen when you got put into that camp, probably be killed, right? That's what they were afraid of. The United Nations was going to do this, and it was all going to happen within 5 or 10 years, so within the 1990s. But did anything happen like that? Did any of that happen? No, of course not. Benjamin Creme the whole time kept saying it wasn't going to happen. It was all just paranoia, and it didn't. Nothing happened with it. And then it's been repackaged, renamed, and now they call it the global elitists. They call it the deep state. But it's the same old stuff, and it's the same old fear. And now it's the Democrats are behind it. But of course, people like Donald Trump are standing in their way, and that's why he's being persecuted the way that he is, in all these kind of things. And that's, that is a whole other talk show with Oprah. But anyway, so that's the way they're packaging it now. And people like Alex Jones and other people are making hundreds of millions of dollars off of other people's fear in promoting this thing. And then there's another group of people that talk about a New World Order, but they're talking about it more from an economic standpoint. Maybe not so much in terms of a fascist takeover. Maybe it's a fascist economic takeover, and they're not talking about internment camps and putting people into those kind of things. But what they're talking about is they see the writing on the wall. They see that the capitalist system is imploding. It's at least not sustainable for much longer. Okay, the debt in the United States is massive. They typically pin it on the Democrats, saying that the Democrats are the ones that are spending, but yet they neglect to mention that there have been some Republican presidents in there too that have been doing their share of spending and borrowing and raising the debt ceiling too. But they forget about those. But it's all the Democrats. It's all Obama. Now it's Biden. If it wasn't for Biden, we would not be in this mess and all that kind of stuff, which is not true. We'd still be in the same boat, whether Donald Trump, a monkey named Coco, or Biden is in the office. It doesn't matter. We're going to be in the same boat that we were in no matter who's in the office. Anyway, even if Hillary Clinton had gotten elected before Trump, I think we would still probably be almost in the same boat that we're in today, right? But at least economically. So they're planning and maneuvering to try to salvage whatever they can to try to be back on top, or to get on top if they're not on top, and that kind of stuff. And so you get a lot of that. And so if you go on YouTube, of course, you're going to have videos. You're going to have, hey, join my Patreon group and give me X amount of dollars a month. And then you'll get the real news. You'll get the real information about how you and your family can survive this catastrophic economic crash that's it's right on the horizon. It's coming. Now, they are right to a degree that the economic crash is coming. It's been on the edge for a while. It's just been kicked down the road because of the money they've been printing. And who's been behind all this is the forces of darkness, according to the masters. They're the ones that are behind the propping up of the markets for so long that they've been able to do. And it's because they can just they don't print the money anymore. They just get in a computer and move a decimal over to the right. You know what I'm saying? So now they have a comma instead of a decimal, and then they got more money now. They can just throw that into the market or whatever like that. And then you got the petrodollar in there, and now we're getting off the petrodollar and all this kind of stuff, right? So people are guessing what's going to happen. Of course, it's all based on fear, all based on fear. And fear is infectious, but also joy is infectious, and hope is infectious. It's just as infectious as fear. But fear is very infectious. And it's also a draw for people. That's the reason why if you look at, videos about Benjamin Creme coming from Share International, the views aren't quite as high as they are from, or even for this channel, aren't nearly as high as if they were talking about gloom and doom, right? People just are attracted to it. Now, we're going to get into that part in a second too. But anyway, so to get back to this New World Order thing. So that's the fear that they have. And out of both groups, I actually kind of understand the conspiracy theorists because they just don't trust them. They don't trust the government. They don't trust the media because they've been lied to. And I can kind of get it. And that's the karma of the United States government and the media for doing the lying over the years. Now, where they're making a mistake is they're just piecing whatever they can together. They're taking rumor and conjecture and kind of piling it together to come up with what they think is what's really going on. And where they're making a mistake is they're spreading this as a fear versus just, I don't trust you. If they just went out and said, I don't trust anything you're saying because you've said so many lies to me, then I'd probably be a part of that group, right? But now the other group, the economic group that really ticks me off, they tick me off more than anything. And when I watch videos from these people and they talk about what they think's going to happen, which, Ben had been talking about it for a long time, was already going to happen. And a lot of those people got very wealthy with these economic bubbles and so forth, and they're trying to help other people to, or at least they're trying to make money off of other people. Let me just call it what it is. So that you, the person who doesn't have a lot or doesn't have as much as them, can either A, get ahead and jumpstart your financial freedom, or, save whatever you have, right? And so give me money and I'll tell you what to do, right? Now, all along, these same people on both sides, whether they're the people who want to get ahead, want to save their wealth, or the people that are making all the money off of it, have been living in a world where 50% of the population live in poverty. A significant portion of that 50% live in abject poverty, and a portion of those people are literally dying of food, lack of food, and starvation, or lack of clean drinking water, and they don't care, And it's just okay, fine. I mean, but they're worried about their own lives. They're worried about what the economy crashing is going to do for them. Although half the world has been living like what they're afraid they're going to eventually live with, and they're deathly afraid of it. Half the world's been living like that for decades, and they didn't care, and, it's so bad. The poverty is so bad in some areas of the world that people not only cannot eat for days, sometimes weeks, and if they do get a little morsel of food, it's just a little morsel. But there are people who literally eat dirt to survive because they have no food. And then whatever water they can drink is not clean. It's filled with all sorts of parasites and bacteria that die of malaria, that die of dysentery, all that kind of stuff. It's awful. And yet we have the ability to help them, and we don't. So that's the condition of today. That's the current world order, is this. And then if you want to talk about geopolitics and politics within the United States and other countries, we can go on for a lot of videos talking about that. But we all see the problems in the world. I mean, I don't have to shine any light on it. Those are the problems. And within this problem of this economic division between the rich nations and the poor nations is what Maitreya says, a seed, a little tiny seed. And remember what Jesus said, what you sow shall you reap, okay, is the seed of a third world war. That means one nation somewhere that has some nuclear weapon will get in such a state of conflict with another nation, or within that nation even, and use a nuclear weapon. And then there will be other nations that will have to use nuclear weapons in response to that. And then it will just end all life on this planet. End the Earth experiment, as we like to say, maybe. I don't know. Just made that up. But anyway, this experiment on Earth, right, will be gone. And that's where that's the current world order. And everybody that's saying that they want America first, anyone that's saying that capitalism is a divine idea, which it's divine, but if that is the only way and that's the way it should be and that's going to be sustainable for the next 10,000 years, is wrong. It's not going to sustain itself. It is imploding. So these people who economically think that there is going to be a new world order because the dollar is going to collapse, because the debt in the United States is getting so high that they can't keep raising the debt ceiling, are correct. The system is collapsing. It is collapsing on itself. But what you're seeing is we're seeing and hearing from people who want to remain on top. And they're not. They're on top of a house of cards that is just collapsing in on itself. Now, here's where this information, I think, might give you a glimmer of hope in all this. One, I'm not asking for any money. Okay, so I'm not saying, hey, join my Patreon group and I'll give you the real information on how to survive this. Only way we're going to survive this is what Maitreya is going to say is the principle of sharing. That's the only way we're going to survive. That's the only way we can get through this. And the principle of sharing really has to do with nations giving of resources to other nations. That's it. Nations that they've been hoarding, nations that have perhaps gone in and exploited the resources out of a particular nation and now are hoarding it against that nation perhaps, or literally went in there and attacked that nation and took it. And it's an unjust situation. It's created the world that we're living in, and this is the current world order. So what would be the new world order? Well, Maitreya is already speaking on TV. We talk about it all the time, even though most people haven't recognized him. Most people probably don't even know who's speaking to him on TV, whether they have seen him or not. He is going to eventually have to ratchet up his rhetoric and his message. And it's going to eventually start to inspire people to understand what he's saying, that we need to make a change. He's the Lord of love. What emanates from his heart is love, nothing but love. That love is within the hearts of every single person on this planet. It's just latent. He literally embodies it. So when he speaks whatever he speaks, the words penetrate the hearts of the listener. They might not intellectually know what's going on, but that's what's going on. It's waking it up more and more, just like a flower opening over and over and over again. And all he has to do is stand in front of a camera and speak. And that's all he has to do, and it's going to do it. Now, also within his heart, this is the other thing too about the problems of the world, within Maitreya's own heart is all the suffering in the world. Anytime you suffer, he feels it within his heart. Anytime you feel pain, he feels it in his heart. But here's the other thing. Anytime you feel love, even if it's toward another family member or a child or somebody else, he feels it also within his heart. He feels all that at the same time. So he says this situation that we're in right now, nothing so moves him to grief. He can feel these people's pain and suffering as they literally are dying, watching loved ones die of starvation for no reason, having no voice. The media doesn't even shine a spotlight on it. They don't even shine an incandescent little itty-bitty little flashlight on the problem. They don't care because they know the people don't care. They know that if they just talked about it, somebody would just turn their TV off and watch a movie or something. But Maitreya is the X factor to change, and I've talked about this. I don't know any other way to explain it. He's the Lord of love. His love is penetrating the hearts of everybody that's listening to him. He's also the X factor for change because when he finally declares himself as Maitreya on the day of declaration, his message for change, we will hear it inwardly in our own head, in our own language. So there's no misinterpretation. There's no language barrier that we might misinterpret what he's saying. We'll know exactly what he's saying because we'll hear it from his perspective, but it will be as if it's coming from our perspective. It's been said, he will give us a vision of what life will be like on Earth if we do not change our ways. We will see our only planetary home die. And since most of us are emotional creatures, we will feel it emotionally. We'll feel what it feels like to lose our only home and see everything in that we've done eradicated from existence because of our lack of inaction, our complacency. We'll feel the pain of it. But he'll also give us a vision of what life will look like in the future if we just try the principle of sharing. Just try it. We'll eventually bring about goodwill, trust amongst the nations, eventually solve the hunger problem rather quickly. We'll see people who will start to feel that their life actually matters. We'll see how our life will have less stress and less strain and tension because of our needs being taken care of. And we'll start to experience what true freedom really is. And it's what Benjamin Creme's master said is the promise of revealed divinity. That's the future. Maitreya says, without sharing, there will be no justice. Without justice, there will be no peace. And without peace, there will be no future. That future is the promise of revealed divinity. That is ultimately the new world order. But it only comes from justice. It only comes from the principle of sharing. That's the only way. That's the foundation for the future. Where the world that we see, that we know today, that's not working for really anybody, except for maybe possibly a few little people, is going to have to change. That's the lack of a better word. But it's going to have to collapse first before it can change. So the fear that people have about it is the fear of what they're familiar with coming to an end. The unknown is what's scary. And if you spread fear about the unknown, it's going to spread like wildfire. But you can also spread hope about the unknown. And the hope is that we have everything we need on this planet. We have each other, and we are one family. We just don't know it, and we don't believe it to be true. Maitreya's job is to remind us that is the truth of the matter. And we all know it within our hearts that we're all one family, that we can do this, that we can live together. That's the hope for humanity. So as you think about this topic about the New World Order versus what's going on today, just ask yourself, is what's going on today working for you? Really working for you? You're really getting along just fine, right? And not only that, are you healthy, you're vital, you feel free? Are you able to explore the other parts of the world whenever you want and really get to know other people on the other side of are you able to do that whenever you want to do it? Are you able to, do you feel like if you lost your job and lost your savings, are you going to be out in the street or are you going to be taken care of, right? And you have that, we all have that in the back of our mind that we have to go to work because if we don't work, we're going to starve at some point. And so just ask yourself those questions. And if you're like me, you're going to say, no, the system isn't really working for me. You know what I mean? I would like to try something different. And then I always offer this up as receipts. Everybody wants receipts these days, right? If you want to know if the principle of sharing works, just research the Marshall Plan. We talk about it all the time. It happened right after World War II. The United States gave excesses of its resources to Western Europe to help stop the communist insurgency in Europe, but also to rebuild Europe, and it did just that. But the nations that participated in the Marshall Plan have never attacked one another since. It's created goodwill amongst those nations. Can't deny it. So those are the receipts that I have that the principle of sharing will work. But anyway, I love you guys. Razi33, thank you so much for your question. Couldn't thank you enough because I would not have been able to put a video up today if it wasn't for you, sir. Thank you very much, guys. I love you. And till next time, bye-bye. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.